Hey guys, welcome back to Busted to Built. Today we're getting back on the turbo truck. Bringing it back out of the woodwork. This is the truck here that started my channel. Got started going with this truck, was the first video I made, was starting to go with this truck to make this build happen. The problem is right now that truck only exists in your head. But in reality, it's parked right over here on the side of the barn. I've had it behind the Tahoe. Just put a battery in it, so we're gonna get to do a cold start on this baby. Turbo 6-liter here. Woo, that's throaty. Yeah, she's definitely a little cold-blooded. Now that the window's defrosted, let's see if this thing will two-wheel into the barn here. Since we've got the Bluetooth front shaft on it, that seems to be effective only for SEMA shows. Alright, let's get her out of here. Gonna have to do a self-recovery. Winter hole, I don't know, whatever. Now we're ready to go in. First recovery was a self-recovery. Glad I had it, that would have been a pain. Now Future Kurt's right where we left him. Back to you, Future Kurt. The whole reason we're in here working on it today is so we can get the transmission swapped. I've got this 4L80 that I took out of my other truck. I built this transmission, put it in there behind the 6-liter, and that's my old 91 GMC pickup, and I've been using that forever. My 6-liter swapped it 4L80, and it had 410s in it already, and it was just a sweet ride, and I've been just using that as my workhorse for the last 6-7 years now, and it's just been an awesome truck. Using it this summer, and took it across the state to Silver Lake. On the way back, it started to smell gas. Fuel tank was leaking, and I've put 2 fuel tanks in it already, so I wasn't going to do another one. The truck's pretty gone now, so I'm just going to push it off to the side and we're going to take the parts out of it. And so about 6 months ago, I pulled this tranny out. Good working 4L80. The only thing that we're going to have to do to it is replace the internal harness here. You can see that it's leaking there. That's why my drain bucket is conveniently located under that. But otherwise, this is a good trans here. Shifts nice and firm. I've got a shift kit in it. It's got your typical bell housing damage here where people just don't ever take the bolts out when they try to yank the trans, and so those are always broken. But neither here nor there, so this is the truck. And for people who are new to the channel here, like I was saying, this is the truck that started YouTube for me here. So anyways, we're not going to dilly-dally talking about that too much, but it's a 2005 half-ton Chevy body put on a 2001 2500 HD frame, solid axle swapped with a 3-link on coils, Dana 44, 410 gears, 14 bolt rear, disc brakes all the way around on it, 6-liter sloppy stage 2 cam and springs into it, and also got a turbocharger on it. So this is just an eBay turbo kit, but I've done all the work myself and fabbed up the plumbing and tuned it myself. So this truck has just been nothing but fun. It's got this extra pedal here and this extra shifter that I'm looking to get rid of. And I know a lot of people are gonna hate on me for that. The biggest problem is that this thing going from 10 pounds of boost to 20 inches of vacuum between shifts is the equivalent of stomping on the brakes. It's just obnoxious. Your head's just pulling so hard and then you hit the clutch pedal and so anyway, that might be a little exaggeration, but the whole thing I want to take care of with the auto trans is obviously we're not going to lose any boost between shifts, and the other thing is my wife will be able to drive it, and I think that would be so cool for her to be in this driving it. So she drives around the Tahoe a little here and there, and I think that's super cool. So I think if we could get her in this, that'd be a lot of fun too. But anyway, so we're gonna get this trans in there, cue the heater, and from there we're gonna see what else we gotta do. I think I may have to adjust my crossover pipe for the turbocharger on there, driveline stuff, I'm not sure. So we just gotta get into it, get the manual trans ripped out, see what we gotta do, get this 4L80 in. Got her this far, and I'm gonna let that baby drain overnight. It's the end of the day now, and I don't feel like monkeying with getting all that fluid on me. We'll wait till I get a fresh shower in the morning before I douse myself with transmission fluid. But yep, got the transfer case off, drive shaft out of it. There was never a front drive shaft here. Like I say, that's a Bluetooth outfit there, but the big issue I'm thinking right here is just that this transmission's really skinny and the 4L80 is a little wider profile at the bottom, so I'm not sure if it's going to clear everything, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to remake my crossover pipe. Like I was saying, that's right there, and I built it so it hugs that transmission extremely tight. But anyways, I'm not going to waste too much of your guys' time. Get at this thing in the morning. We're in here now. When I mean in here, I mean I'm just where the transmission would be. But got everything apart. Here's my clutch and flywheel. Just like to reconfirm there, like looking at that little stamp, you know, a little sense of pride. Okay, done with that. But got all this apart, so I didn't have a flex plate for this. I thought I did. I've got, you know, just the used one on my old black truck I could pull off, but then I'm like, well, if anybody knows, these 6 liters are pretty good. At least with a 4L80, they're pretty good for tearing up flex plates. So I was like, I'll just get a new one. So I ran to the auto parts and got a new one. They didn't have one in stock where I like to go with the auto value, but that was my fault for not planning ahead. So I had to run to O'Reilly's for this. So anyway, got a Pioneer there, but yeah, I tried to use the hydraulic outfit here for my pilot bearing, but it just didn't seal to push itself out. So I ended up having to slide hammer it out here, and that worked all right. I was surprised that my clutch looked pretty decent though. It was slipping pretty bad, and it had a pretty good squeak to it when it was in overdrive. So typical, you know, worn clutch type, I don't know, symptom. But I get in here and the clutch plate looks good, and you can see on all my springs here, those were all rubbing on my flywheel bolts, just barely. So that would have been sitting just like that. And so anytime that there was a difference in the speed of the flywheel and the clutch plate here, that was where I was getting at. So figured that out. So we're going to fix something by going to the auto trans here. So this isn't a waste by any means. This is just something I didn't quite get right. And you see I've got a couple washers on these too, and that's to make up the difference for the spacer that comes on the other flex plate. Let me get out of the box and show you. Oh, it's so new. Instructions if I feel like reading them. So excellent. Get new bolts, so that's good anyways. But this is the spacer here that I'm talking about. And so I had these washers on here to make up for just a little depth of the spacer, because these are blind holes in the crankshaft, so you can't just get a super long bolt. You have to have something that's about that long. So works out. We got a whole new package of hardware, so I don't have to worry about these guys having those screwed up heads on them. We'll just get this new hardware in there, new flex plate, then the trans is ready to go in, and I got the rest of the wiring stuff ordered for that, so we'll be in business. And just gonna try and get this thing going. I got 2 days coming up wide open to try to dial this in before I gotta have the shop open back up. So anyways, I'm gonna try and do what I can and get this thing done. I really want to. I really miss this truck. Really want to drive it. So anyways, we're gonna get back to it now. New morning in the shop and run into a little bit of a roadblock. So I've got parts and pieces here kind of scattered all over the place. So, and the thing is, when I put my original transfer case together for this truck, which is a passenger side drop 241, it's like the rarest transfer case on earth. I never should have did it. I paid like 125 bucks for it when I bought it like 10 years ago, and ended up using it in this. I looked the price of them up now. They're like 1,500 bucks for one of these transfer cases. So I should have just cut my losses and just parted with it and just put a driver's side drop on here, a different axle. But that's way behind us now. So anyways, so the whole thing was, this is the passenger drop 241. And when I put this together, it came out of a Blazer. So it was originally a 27 spline input. I put a 32 in it and never even paid any attention that there's a pilot bearing, or supposed to be a pilot bearing, down in that input shaft where this rides, and I never assembled that. I just overlooked it at the time, and for some reason, months down the road, it just hit me, just boom, right in my noodle, that there's probably a bearing in there. You'd ever check to see if it was in there or if the new shaft came with one. So anyways, I didn't hurt anything, because this is only ever in use when you're in low range, and this truck's never been in low range, so I didn't hurt anything. But to try to find that bearing's impossible, so I just cross-referenced the shaft, the input shaft, to see if it was the same between the driver and the passenger side drop. They are, unfortunately for me. So I've got a driver's side drop. I tore that apart just so I could get the input shaft out of it. And so anyways, now I've got the whole planetary and input shaft right out of it. But you can see right in there, there's a little bearing in that guy. And down in here, there's no bearing, and you can see right all the way through the shaft. So I'm glad I caught this now. It's just gonna take me a few hours to get these cases all put back together, and then we'll have that much done, and then I can continue on. So, but just wanted to stop and tell everybody what was going on for a minute. So just making a big old mess around here, but I'll make something work of it, I promise. Alright, got the transfer case all together here, and that went nicely. Just went to town, got myself 2 transfer case gaskets, so that way when I rip the first one, I won't be all upset that I had to go to town and get the second one. So hopefully we're covered there, but also got my trans filter there, so I'm gonna let the silicone on this sit up for a minute, and then once that's done and I'm done with my lunch, then we're gonna come and try and stab it on here. Once that's installed, I'll make sure my cross member clears my output for the front. Everything else looks like it should be good now, but yeah, we'll get that on. I'll have to lengthen my shifter just a little bit for the case, install this vent tube on it, tighten up the trans, torque converter bolts, and then I can check my rear shaft. I think that'll be the next thing that I do. Make sure that my rear shaft I can make work or trim it down, whatever I gotta do, because this length right here is going to be different. The manual transmission, even though it's a 5-speed, and the auto that's in there is a 4, this is actually about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches shorter than the 4L80. So I'm going to have to shorten my shaft then, since the 4L80 is a couple inches longer. I'm probably going to have to take a couple inches off this because I was already ramming right into the end of my transfer case. So I'll have to make sure that that's right, but it's all just part of the process. You don't know until you start. So anyways, that's what we're going to be up to after lunch, and we'll get on it. I'm just cutting ahead a little bit. I just wanted to see how my crossover pipe was going to fit in there too, and my bell housing cover and all that. So I lucked out big time. This thing just barely wraps around, but it's going to work. And then over here I had to kind of notch out, see if I can get some light in there. Had to notch out my cover just a little bit, and then over here on the passenger side I had to cut off that ear on the transmission right there, but that's gonna snake right up in there nice. So alright, just wanted to see how that was all gonna work. I got my bell housing bolted up, torque converter bolts are on, dipstick tubes in, so little by little here, but now let's stab a transfer case on it. Alright guys, done pretty good. I got the front shaft in here. I had to just kind of shorten that one up a hair. This isn't the shaft that was in it. Like I say, it didn't have a shaft. This is out of my old mud truck, so this is just kind of an attempt to get me going. I think this CV here is pretty noisy if I remember right, but anyways, that'll go, you know, in there like it does. Like it does. Like it does! Okay. So anyway, yeah, front drive shaft's in there, and that's a really good angle, actually, but now we're working on the rear. So I've got my brand new rear shaft. That's got like 1,000 miles on it. And now we're gonna slice and dice. So we'll see how good this all turns out. I'm gonna take about 2.5 inches out of here, hopefully, is what we end up losing off of it. And then we'll see how that all goes, huh? That turned out pretty good right there. So it's a little crude with my cut there, getting that weld out of it, but salvaged it really nicely and drove right in there. See, look down at here. You can see that we're clocked, I would say, within 5 degrees. That'll give me a lot of air room for you guys to comment on. But honestly, that looks dead nuts, just to eyeball it. But anyways, we'll see how she all turns out. I'm gonna stab it in there. Just put the truck in neutral or transfer case in neutral so I can spin it. And then we'll see exactly how true it is, and I'll try to kind of square it up where it needs to be, and then we'll get it welded. Alright, we dumped a little trans fluid down her throat. We're going to try and get this thing fired up, move it forward and backwards, and then call it a day, if that works. So I got to put a trans cooler on it still and get the shift linkage for the transfer case on there, and get some straps for the front U-joint at the differential. But that's all minor stuff. If this thing will move forward and backwards, huge win for a day's work. So let's see what happens. That's a win for the day, forward and backwards, but we're gonna have to do some more tuning now for sure and try and get that cleaned up so it don't want to die when you just put it in gear. But we'll handle that tomorrow. We'll see you then. Next day, and we got quite a bit done. So I just painted up my weld on the drive shaft there. That wasn't a big deal. I hooked up my linkage for the transfer case. Again, not a big deal. And then I went in and freshened up the tune, told the truck it's got a 4L80 in it now, so you better like it. You better do what you gotta do. But that doesn't matter. I don't have any of the wiring stuff hooked up or in yet, so I just got this far for this video, and it's far enough that I can put it in at least manual reverse, manual one, get it in and out of the shop and drive it around. And then now I've got 4-wheel drive if I need to do that or not. I actually take that back. I didn't get any caps for that front shaft yet, so that's still kind of we hope one day we'll get to it. But anyways, we're gonna cut the video off right here, and we're gonna get the rest of that figured out in the next one. And for now, we're just gonna pull this thing out and just be happy with it for now. So anyways, let's do that.